Welcome everyone. Today we're going to be talking about the Ogre of Aptos, part 7. Now in our last video, we had ended up talking about how Ed Kemper had sat there and killed Akuku, who was a 15-year-old dance student. And one thing I want you to keep in mind is, after he had disposed of the body, he had actually kept the head of Akuku in the trunk of the car for actually a few days. And on one of those occasions, Ed Kemper had actually took the head of Akuku in the trunk of the car and actually went to a therapy meeting with one of his psychiatrists. And ironically, after the meeting, the therapist had actually sat there and said that he was very confident that Ed posed no threat of being a harm to himself or others, and that he was completely rehabilitated, unbeknownst to him having a head of a 15-year-old in the trunk of his car. Now on January 7th of 1973, Ed had actually moved back in with his mother. And on this particular day, he had actually went and picked up another hitchhiker named Cindy Shaw. Now Cindy was over at Cabrini College, and when he had picked her up, as I said, around this time, cops were going around emphasizing to a lot of college students to not be picking up rides from strangers unless they had a sticker from that particular college. And being that Carnell was actually a advisor in a college, Ed actually had a sticker on his car. Now, at this point, when he had picked up Cindy, he would sit there and drive her to a disclosed place, and he would shoot her in the head with a .22 caliber pistol. He would put her body in the trunk and drive over to his mother's house. And he would bring the body inside, and at that point, he would again do as he had done before, removing the head and performing irrumatio on the decapitated head. Now, while he was doing this, he would do this in the bathroom of his mother's house, and he would use a power saw and actually dismember the body. He had dropped the body at a disclosed place where the body was later found, and he actually took the head of Cindy Shaw and buried it outside her mother's window with her head facing up. When he was actually captured, authorities asked why he had done that. And his response was, well, mother always liked when people looked up to her. Now on February 5th, 1973, after a heated argument with his mother, Ed had went out and he picked up a couple hitchhikers. They would be Rosalind Thorpe and Allison Liu. Now, at this point in time, he was not strangling his victims. He was shooting them in the head with a small caliber pistol. And every time he had shot them in the head with a short caliber pistol, after he would decapitate them, he would actually sit there and remove the bullet from the head so that it could not be leaked back to him. And when he picked up these hitchhikers, he had done the same thing. He had sat there and handcuffed one, shot one in the head, and did the same thing with the other ones. And at that point, he put both of the bodies in the trunk of the car. Now, as he had sat there and was living with his mother, what he would do at this point was he would park his car and open the trunk and actually decapitate the heads while he was actually in the parking lot of his mom's house in Aptos. At that point, he would put the heads in a bag and then violate their corpses when he would get them in the house. And then he would later discard them. He actually admitted on one interview that he was actually carrying heads in a bag into his mom's house. And he actually noticed that there was a man and a woman going out on a date somewhere where he would like to be. And they just nodded and said hello, and he nodded and said hello, and he walked inside. It really kind of speaks volumes of just how demented and twisted he had gotten. But at this point, he was getting to the height of what he was planning to do all along, because all of these murders that Ed had been doing was more or less practice for his end goal. Where we come to the night of April 20th, 1973, where Ed was actually awoken from his mother coming home intoxicated from a party. And the actions of what happened that night would shake the town of Aptos to its core.